Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a game. It has Japan's second best physical launch sales ever for a PS5 game. This story is over on psu.com. They got the details. According to Famitsu, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is the second in a trilogy, if you guys haven't been keeping up with what's going on, Famitsu reports that the number of Rebirth physical sales cements it as having the second best physical launch sales numbers ever for a PS5 game. In first place is Final Fantasy 16, which sold 73,000 more copies than Rebirth on launch. And if you're wondering, Rebirth sold 262,656 copies, according to Famitsu. But despite it being an exclusive title for PS5, it wasn't able to move the needle on hardware to get the PS5 in the first place of last week's sales. And again, this is in Japan. So if you're thinking like, oh man, that's not good at all. This is not worldwide. Famitsu will track the numbers in Japan, which is, Square Enix's home turf, which is a good indication of how the native Japanese, Japan folk, the Japan folk think about the game in terms of like voting with their wallet. But in terms of like the best-selling hardware was the Nintendo Switch, topping out the week with 62,531 consoles sold, ahead of the PS5's 48,067, and then Xbox coming in dead last at 2,351, which, sounds daunting. But you got to remember, Xbox has always done bad in Japan since the beginning of time. It just hasn't broke through over there, which makes sense because, Nintendo and Sony are home companies and they tend to cater to their home audience a lot more. So this is interesting. Well, one thing I want to see added to this, I want to see Steam Decks sold in Japan. They need to add that to the list. How many Steam Decks are sold in Japan compared to the Switch? I would love to see that graphic. Absolutely love to see it. I want to see how much they're selling over there. I don't know if they can track it. I don't know if those numbers are kept anywhere. But I would love to see it. But let me tell you, Final Fantasy VII, if you haven't already, check out my playthrough going on YouTube right now. I'm on episode 6. I'm barely like 10 to 12 hours in the game, so I'm very early. So if you've been playing it and you don't want to get spoiled, don't worry. You're probably way ahead of me. My overall thoughts on the game are positive. I think the game is in a good state. I think Square Enix has a good game on their hands, and I'm not going to say much more beyond that because I don't want to spoil what you guys are, anticipating if you're going to play it yourselves. But it's a good physical launch. I mean, Square Enix is dominating in terms of physical launches over there in Japan. They got spots 1 and 2 with Final Fantasy 16 and also Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. Check the story out over on psu.com. They got the details about PlayStation 5 hardware not really being moved by these titles, but Square Enix is killing it in terms of Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7 physical sales. Check it out.